Hi, this is Alexander Scott, a member of Lands, presenting this edition of our weekly updates. A reminder to please check out our website at jalands.org or follow us on social media. Our Twitter handle is @lands_ja. We will begin with the NHT and general finance situation. We'll be covering 3 articles, 2 from the Observer and 1 from JIS. The 2 from the Observer are titled Government Tables Economic Recovery Bills, It Doesn't Make Sense, Golding Concerned About NHT Drawdown, but Clark Defends Move, and Legislation Tabled to Establish Independent Fiscal Commission. So, on December the 1st, the Finance Minister stated in Parliament that, in response to the negative impacts caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the government would be seeking to draw down some $45 billion over the next 4 years from the NHT to bolster the economy. This was accompanied by the introduction of 3 bills. They are titled the Independent Fiscal Commission Act 2020, the Financial Administration and Audit Amendment Act 2020, and the National Housing Trust Amendment Act 2020. These acts, the Minister stated, would help the government put the proper framework in place for an economic recovery, a stable economic recovery. Now, the Leader of the Opposition made a point that when the PNP was in power, and was taking such actions, drawing down money from the NHT to bolster the economy, the JLP vehemently criticized them. And he also questioned, that is the Leader of the Opposition, he also questioned if nearly a decade of drawdowns from the NHT would not have a negative impact on the ability of the trust to provide houses. Now, the Finance Minister noted that the issue at the moment with the building of houses from the National Housing Trust is not the availability of money, rather it's the availability of affordable housing and the willingness of the firms to do the work. Now, as mentioned earlier, also mentioned was the Independent Fiscal Commission. The Finance Minister stated that the Commission would, and I quote, be the guardian and interpreter of Jamaica's fiscal rules, monitoring compliance with these fiscal rules, reporting on fiscal outcomes, and keeping the public informed by providing independent analysis on fiscal policy developments. He also noted that a fiscal commission is an institutional necessity in the pursuit of economic independence. Now, we at Lands, within our respective units, have discussed the idea of this impending independent fiscal commission, and we are very skeptical of it. The idea of a bureaucratic, technocratic board which is totally unaccountable to either the people or their elected representatives is one which we find extremely troubling. This future commission could, for example, knock down any government's plan to say, go on a grand house building scheme, simply because they feel that it may possibly, in an undetermined future, have a negative downside. Already in that example, we can see where the issues would come into play. This totally unaccountable body would be dictating what we, the citizens, can and can't have, and what our MPs and our government can and cannot promise and act on, even if it is for the betterment of the majority of the population. The Minister's comments about housing now, those are interesting, and those should be looked into further. Now, it's clear that we do have the construction agencies and companies that can build planned communities, even ones which are come with affordable housing, and this was seen with Portmore. What is needed in this instance is state intervention. The state must, if necessary, subsidize the construction of these affordable houses for both young professionals and persons with low income if we are to solve the issues relating to both housing and the environment. This is This is just one out of many things which the government could do to ensure that a proper housing solution is found, and it would go a long way to securing both our national development and even some economic security. The next issue is the environment and waste management, and this comes from an article in the Gleaner titled Government to Make Announcement on the Third Phase of Plastic Ban. On Thursday, it was announced that the government was moving ahead with the third phase of the plastic ban, and this phase will include the ending of the use of single-use plastic bags with a dimension of 24 by 24 inches and a thickness of 2.5 mils, as well as certain plastic straws. Now, plastic and waste management in general are issues which no Jamaican can claim immunity from. It is a regular occurrence to see gullies, rivers, streams, roads, fields, even the mountainsides strewn with litter mainly made up of single-use plastic items. Now, the elimination of the use of these products is something which we at Lands are in agreement with. And we also agree with the Minister's line that this could be a new opportunity for us to take advantage of. Now, while he relegated this to simply bottle deposits, cash and carry for your bottles, for your plastic bottles, we at Lands within our respective units, through individual discussions, we see this as an opportunity for our manufacturing and industrial sector to take the lead and invest in alternative products to those which usually use plastics. Now, we're already seeing this take place with, say, straws and cups being made from bamboo and bags being made from cloth. Now, we're now having a whole bunch of supermarkets bags just being made from cloth and other reusable products, other environmentally friendly materials. Now, if we're serious about a national development program and providing the Jamaican worker with a good long-term job with a form of pay that can sustain both themselves and their families, then we think this is an avenue that we must be going down. Plastics are getting phased out both regionally and globally, and we really think that Jamaica could secure a decent part of the regional market if it goes down the road of investing in manufacturing alternative products to plastics. That would also at the same time have the benefit of offsetting the inevitable downsides which we would be facing as we transition from plastics. So yeah, we think that is something that is interesting and something that should be noted. Next, we'll be looking at some of the discussions which have been taking place within our units. So we'll begin with the Western Jamaican unit, which recently discussed the issues surrounding the economy and land ownership. Now, this discussion began with members being asked about their stance on land being used as a commodity. Most members expressed dissatisfaction with the idea of land being a commodity, be it privatized, held by individual owners, or anything of that nature. But one member in particular did think that land should be a commodity. The reasoning behind this was that they felt that the market should remain free and that persons should be able to buy land and make money from it if they want. They also explained that they were for ideally a form of capitalism which is fairer in how it operates and that is more equal in its redistribution through taxes, even though they did acknowledge that a rich person would always be at an advantage over a poor person in any form of capitalism. Now, it was at that point that it was pointed out to them that no wealthy person would actually sanction any true redistribution of their wealth, be it through taxes or any other means, and that the unfair advantage which the rich person enjoys is simply baked into the capitalist system. The discussion went on, and it was a very interesting and lively one, but this in particular is the point I want us to focus on. Even if we want a capitalism which is fair or not exploitative of either workers or the earth, we're not going to get one. The system as it is designed aims to concentrate wealth in a tiny portion's hands. It aims on concentrating land in a tiny elite's hands. Its aims are to exploit labor to the fullest and to maximize profits, even if it means that the majority must go hungry and homeless. The debate in this unit about this topic, about that topic, is also interesting because I think it forces us to think of things which at the moment seem impossible or unachievable, and that is a world without private property. But we need to remember that up to a few centuries ago, the idea of everything being owned by a single individual was unnatural, and that there was a lot of public land. There were large swaths of land available to everyone. They were called the commons, and they were used for both farming and for industrial use and a whole host of reasons. And I really think that conversations like that, like the ones had in that meeting, will be very beneficial as we look to create a more just and an equal Jamaica. Finally, we go to our Northern Jamaican unit, which had a meeting recently, and the item I want to look at was when they touched on housing and natural disasters. Now, it began with it being pointed out that the government recently made a statement that they wish to declare no builder zones along gully banks, and that this was something which has already been done with certain areas and has failed due mainly to lax enforcement of the laws, and that this has highlighted once again an example of persons attacking the symptoms as opposed to going to the root of the problem. During the meeting, it was also pointed out that just by looking at how and where the people in question are living, be it on the gully banks or on the sides of the hills, on these precipitous hillsides, they don't have much option. They're not living there because they want to, because they chose to live there. They're living there because they have almost no ability to choose where to live. So charging them at that point for living in areas which are prone to flooding or prone to landsliding would be extremely counterproductive. There was a general agreement that this situation would continue so long as we don't address our housing issue and the issue of land ownership. And you can see this even in a place like Kingston, where you have so many abandoned buildings and you have people just living in them, generations of families living in these abandoned buildings in downtown Kingston. And this is because there is no form of land redistribution, and there is no form of low income housing available to them. Now, there was total agreement that the free market just simply cannot and has not delivered on the issue of housing, and that the state needs to step in, and that there are many examples around the world which we can study and we can look at. Now, one of the examples mentioned, and I really like this example, was the idea of the UK council house model. And while we can't use that model word for word, I really do think it is a model which bears looking at if we are serious about addressing this burning issue. Now, this discussion that the Northern Jamaica unit had, it ties into a topic we covered in last week's update, the need to find a housing solution. Young people are nervous, wondering if they will be forever renters, and people who do not have $18 million for a starter house are worried. People who are living on the gully banks and on precipitous mountainsides, they're living in constant fear. This is an issue which, along with our land ownership question, needs to be dealt with, whereby people have access not just to housing, but decent housing and good land upon which they can work or build on. And until those issues are properly dealt with, we are always going to find ourselves coming back to these questions, scratching our heads, wondering, how do we get out of this?